Alright, I need someone to explain to me how I managed to get airdropped into the Welcome Home fandom. Like, I was just going along, minding my own business, living my life, until I started seeing this little fucker appear all over my FYP. And of course, me, knowing how the internet tends to work, my first thought was, oh, new video game. New video game got popular. It's a Five Nights at Freddy's knockoff. That was my initial thought. But that's not what it is exactly. I don't have anything I can compare it to. Go ahead and take a guess which character has now become my hyperfixation that I have become hopelessly obsessed with for no reason at all whatsoever. Go on, just guess. You people know me. Guess which one it is. Sir, I need to know what gives you the right. This is what it's come to. This is my life. How did I fall down the welcome home rabbit hole? Well, it's a long story. Well, it all starts right here on this godforsaken app, with my FYP full of witchcraft, dank memes, and socio-political discourse. But through all the chaos and the drama, there was one character that kept reappearing in a lot of people's profile pics in the comment sections. And that was this cute little puppet character with yellow skin, a dark blue pompadour, and these striped pants. And after a while, I just got curious, like, okay, who is this character that I keep on seeing appearing all over the comment section and in various videos? Like, what is going on? Now, my initial thought was that a new video game got popular, like a Five Nights at Freddy's knockoff or something. No, I didn't know what this fandom was called at the time, but I did know that character I kept on seeing all over the place was called Wally Darling, and so that's what I put in the search bar on YouTube. And thus my descent into this rabbit hole began. I started watching various theory videos and videos that explored the Welcome Home website, and I gradually just branched off on my own to learn a little bit more about the characters. How I ended up simping for Frank Frankly, I have no idea. I couldn't tell you. I don't know if it's the hair or the sense of fashion. I'm not sure. But yeah, this is mine. And that eventually led me back over to TikTok, where I instantly began searching up TikToks on Welcome Home and the various characters. I think it's the added layer of mystery and horror that is within the ARG itself that just, it makes me hungry for more. I want to know what's going on. I want to know who to root for. I want to know who to root against. And overall, I want to see how this ends. This picture, especially, really gets me to think, and it's really tempting me to make a theory video for my YouTube channel, because that's how my YouTube channel kind of popped off. Is I used to make Has-Been Hotel theories, and I don't know if that's a path I'm ready to travel again with this fandom. So yeah, while I try to sort all that out, I'm just having fun over here. I'm just enjoying myself. Yeah, you know, there's a few things about this fandom that I'm still trying to wrap my head around on as to how it came to be. The main one that has me perplexed at the moment is how the concept of Wally eating with his eyes by blinking happened. Because I haven't seen any canonical information that supports that. Like, in terms of character info, I'm pretty sure Wally's bio said that Wally likes apples. He does like apples, but he doesn't like to eat them. He just likes looking at them. Is that how that somehow translated into him eating apples with his eyes? Like, don't get me wrong, the idea that a single blink could lead to a chunk being taken out of something is equally as terrifying as it is unique. But I haven't seen any sort of canonical information that supports that. Like, did I miss something here? Also, everybody talks about Wally's hair and how strong his hairspray must be, but I have seen nobody acknowledge the fact that Eddie literally styles his hair with glue. Also, I have a very disturbing theory about the fandom's concept that Frank likes to spy on Howdy because he's a caterpillar and he's waiting for him to crystallize. So when a caterpillar crystallizes and they emerge from that chrysalis as a butterfly, that butterfly only has like a few weeks left to live. I mean, I don't know how good of friends Frank and Howdy are, but personally, if that was the situation I was in, I would be terrified to find out that my caterpillar friend had finally crystallized. Because sure, they might turn into a beautiful butterfly, but the only thing I'd be able to think about is how my friend's time is running out. I don't know if that's a concept that Frank just like fails to grasp or would fail to grasp, or if that's something that he wouldn't even consider because they're puppets. But it gives me just a little bit of depression, I'm not gonna lie. And this is why you don't let me talk about the fandom, because I ruin shit. So with every character scenario video that I've made, there's been at least one person in the comment section that has asked why I give Wally Darling such a hard time. So let me list the reasons. Reason number one, in almost every character scenario video I've made, Wally has been an absolute menace, and I treat him as such. Reason number two, he pretty much dragged me into this fandom single-handedly. All I did is like a single TikTok of him saying, "Open the your home," and now my FYP is ruined. Witch Talk, Socio-Political Discourse, the book I'd been working on? Not anytime soon, because this has pretty much consumed my entire life. Reason number three, I find this little guy cute. But it's not the type of cute where I want to hug and squeeze him and give him the bougie bougie baby talk. No, it's the aggressive type of cute where I would just want to take him and I want to squeeze him and crush him and just absolutely demolish him. So let the record show that technically speaking, I don't hate Wally Darling. As a matter of fact, I don't think I hate any of the characters in Welcome Home. It's just that Wally just so happens to be the little menace that single-handedly drug me into this fandom, and I find him cute to an extremely aggressive extent. I mean, you don't want to know how many Wally voice actors I've followed and listened to on a daily basis, because it's getting kind of ridiculous. Dude, how do you think I fell down this rabbit hole in the first place? If the entirety of Welcome Home just equated to a fictional children's show that fell into obscurity, I don't think I'd be quite as invested in it as I am now. Like, at most, I'd probably just be like, oh yeah, this is something that, like, younger internet users can get into and enjoy. No, I'm pretty sure it is the lore hidden deep down in Welcome Home that is the main reason why we're all here. I'm gonna be straight up with you. This entire fandom could turn out to be a cult, and I wouldn't even be upset if I accidentally joined. Not to mention, I am here when this story is just starting to unfold, and I desperately want to know how this ends. Where does this rabbit hole go? Yes, I do fawn over these characters, mainly Frank Frankly, and I do make up hypothetical Welcome Home character scenarios. But I'm not quite as oblivious as I look. Also, I just want to share something real quick, completely unrelated. Has anybody else noticed that the color purple is severely lacking in Welcome Home? Like, just in general, you might catch a glimpse of it if it's in, like, a rainbow gradient of some sort. Like, for example, Poppy, she's got just the slightest hint of purple in her color scheme. But it's very easy to overlook, and just in general, in character designs, building designs, the color purple is severely lacking. And I want to know why that is. Like in this image, for example, the only bit of purple we get is on the tree here. Everything else is a primary color or green or orange. No purple. I'm not counting this little bit on the ball here because that's just a shadow. The color purple doesn't even appear on Eddie's tie. It just fades into a darker blue. Where is the color purple? And this is what I was talking about. In Poppy's tail here, you can just catch the slightest bit of purple at the base of her tail and in the feathers on her neck. No purple. No purple, not even on the little flower that Julie is standing on here. That's a darker blue. No purple, except for maybe this little flower here and the gradient on Sally's pants. And I was about to say absolutely no purple for Frank, but there's just the slightest ring of purple on the abdomen of that butterfly right there. Other than that, no purple. Where is this color? Now, obviously, this can all just be a design choice on Clown's part to make the characters brighter and more cheerful looking, but I want a confirmation of that. What would happen if the Welcome Home cast met me? Well, let me explain, because I'm pretty sure some of these answers will surprise you. Alright, with Wally Darling, it would depend on which version of him I would be meeting. If it's the canonically relaxed and easygoing monotone Wally, he's safe. He'll be fine. If it's the fandom's version of Wally that is absolutely adorable and desperately wants to be our friend, aggressive cuteness mode would engage. This man would be crushed. And if it's the little menace Wally that I've had to deal with in these videos, he's getting drop-kicked over the back fence. First order of business, upon meeting Barnaby, I would demand hugs. He is a gigantic dog, for crying out loud. And just every time I'd see him, I'd be like, Barnaby, I want hugs! Eddie is not safe at all. For reference, I am 6 feet tall. This man is chest height on me. I would pick him up and squeeze him half to death. I do not give Julie enough credit or respect in my TikToks because we would probably end up being best friends. She actually gives me the same vibes as one of my friends that I currently have, in the sense that if I have one of my introverted moments where I am just shutting myself away in my apartment, she would break down my door. Same story with Sally, except she would probably be the bad influence that may or may not get me in trouble. You know, as much as I simp for Frank frankly whenever I use the Welcome Home filter, they fall under the category of people that I would never fall for in real life. All it would take is him snapping at me once for me to be like, okay, alright, I'm leaving. But I did see a TikTok of opposite Frank, who's a precious bean that loves moths, and yeah, I would definitely fall for opposite Frank. Opposite Frank would go missing because I would take them. Poppy would become my emotional support bird, and I'm pretty sure I'd become her emotional support person. We're both trans, let's talk about whatever you want, but also you've got the baked goods and I'm like a stray cat. You feed me, I'm gonna keep coming back. I would definitely simp for Howdy IRL. He's taller than me by a long shot, so he's already got my attention. Plus, I am fascinated by those legs. Plus, we both work customer service jobs. We could swap work stories. Yes, I do. And it's been a doozy trying to figure out the reason as to why. I have just recently realized that the characters that I have a tendency to simp for are either really toxic or the reasons I simp for them are really toxic. Let's just go back in time a little bit. Welcome to my favorites page, by the way. This is the first Welcome Home TikTok I ever liked. Like I said, this whole thing started with a TikTok of Wally saying, open the your home. It was this animated TikTok specifically, and up here is the first TikTok featuring Frank Frankly that I ever liked. And if you're familiar with this TikTok in particular, you know what the audio is, and you know what happens in that animation. Wally throws a paintbrush at Frank. I don't know why, but his expression, his demeanor, the way he reacted, all just had me going, huh. Now I want to know who this guy is. So I go and I try to learn a little bit more about Frank, and I find out that they're the smart one of the group. And I have a tendency to be drawn to characters with intelligence. Not to mention, he's a little bit more unique in the sense that he has a little bit less color to him. He's more gray. And yes, it is the hair. It is the sense of fashion. Those black slacks really do look good on them. And then I found out that Frank was canonically non-binary and gay. And my own gay, simping heart couldn't handle it. And also, getting their pronouns right has been a work in progress. But like I said, Frank falls in the category of people that I probably wouldn't simp for in real life. Smarts, honesty, and directness are definitely traits that I value in a person. However, when it crosses the line over into grumpiness, there's only so much of that I can take. And you have to remember, Frank is described as being the grumpiest neighbor in Welcome Home. So yeah, all it would take is for Frank to snap at me once for me to royally back off. I could see us being really good friends, though. Like, the moment the neighborhood started getting too loud and chaotic for me, I would just go over to Frank's and just be like, yeah, put me in a quiet corner for a few hours. Let me have a cup of coffee. I need some time to recharge. But Frank doesn't even begin to compare to some of the characters that I've simped for in the past. Like, lately, I found myself wrapped up in the Welcome Home AUs, namely the Rainbow Factory and Lovesick AUs. And I'm simping for Rainbow Factory and Lovesick Wally. And that's a problem. Yeah, a little bit. Rainbow Factory Wally was a real eye-opener for me in the sense that typically I do not simp for characters like him at all, whatsoever, point blank, period, end of story. Like, I genuinely had to sit down with myself and ask myself, why do you like this man? What about this is attractive to you? And the results were a tad bit troubling. The first thing that I realized, and what is actually probably a really sad fact actually, is that I do not have a very high opinion of myself. Like, yeah, I got followers on TikTok, I've got subscribers on YouTube, but my mind struggles to wrap around the concept of people liking me because I dealt with bullying my entire life. That was like the vast majority of my childhood. Like, people have straight up told me in the comment section of both platforms that they like the sound of my voice. They love to listen to me talk. And I don't understand why, because I think my voice is obnoxious. So in the TikToks where Rainbow Factory Wally calls us pathetic and annoying and irritating, I just go, I mean, you're not wrong. The second thing that I realized is that I kind of have a little bit of a soft spot for men and characters that have a rough exterior, but also a soft side to them. And sometimes that is how Rainbow Factory Wally is portrayed. Like, yes, he insults and berates us on a regular basis, it seems like. He might threaten to throw us into the grinder or turn us into an experiment, but once you break through that, he turns into a big ol' softie, and I can't handle it. Would I actually fall for somebody like Rainbow Factory Wally IRL? I mean, I can't promise that I wouldn't. I mean, obviously, if my crush was constantly insulting me and threatening to turn me into an experiment, that's a huge red flag, and I would run for the hills. But aside from that, I mean, to be fair, if you followed me before I started covering Welcome Home content, you'd realize that I am also a disgruntled workaholic that does not have time for other people's bullshit. I'm a member of Gen Z running purely on caffeine and spite, and sometimes it shows. So if that's your introduction to me, you might also be under the impression that I'm a bit of an asshole. Does this excuse me for simping over Rainbow Factory Wally? Absolutely not. I'm not entirely sure if you were attempting to trick me into doing voice acting work as Rainbow Factory Wally, but I almost tried, but I'm not brave enough to do that. For the record, the information I will be providing is what I know to be canon and is available on Dodozoi's profile, because they are the creator of this AU. First of all, his voice, deep, incredibly deep, octaves deep. Second of all, his hair. Typical Wally hair with the pompadour up front, but also long and fluffy in the back, and I desperately want to pet it and play with it, but I know I can't because otherwise I will be punched in the face. He's also the tallest AU Wally that I have ever heard of, standing at a towering 6'11". As for his mood, it seems to depend on how well he knows you and how well that relationship has developed. That might just be in reference to the character AI, in which case I am a royal idiot. But overall, canonically, it does seem like he is a big softie with an incredibly rough exterior. I mean, you kinda have to be if you're working at the Rainbow Factory. My takeaway from this, flirting and getting intimate with him too soon, major no-no. But overall, the sadism and aggression shown towards the people that work for him, mostly a bluff, but he's also kind of serious. Now that I have provided that information, allow me to go back to what I was saying at the beginning of this TikTok. I have been strongly considering doing voice requests, either as Wally or Rainbow Factory Wally, because I know which filters to use in order to achieve those effects. But I have absolutely no confidence in myself whatsoever, and I'm worried it might be cringe. I don't know, this fandom kind of scares me a little bit because I've seen the requests that some of these people who do voice work have gotten, and I don't know if that's a path I'm ready to travel down just yet. I mean, I'd be willing to try, with the stipulation that we respect Clown's and Dodozoi's boundaries in the sense that no NSFW stuff, and no getting too weird. You know, the tornado siren test just went off as I started recording this. So a couple of things. First of all, you're not wrong, because I have been simping so hard for Rainbow Factory Wally over the course of the past couple of days that I have legitimately forgotten a couple of times that he is an AU of Welcome Home. Second of all, I made a list. Like, legitimately, I made a list of every version of Wally that I have come across in my time in the Welcome Home fandom. And let me just say this much. I think Sans may have been dethroned. Now note, this is just a list of the AUs that I know about. So, in total, we have OG Wally, obviously. We have Lovesick, Sweetheart, Opposite, Rainbow Factory, Killer, Watcher, Beach Town, Mirror House, Grayscale, Butcher, Circus, Actor, Casino, Mafia, Nightmare, Phantom, Toy Wally, Error, So Below, Patchwork, and Priest. For those who were not keeping count, that is 23 separate versions of Wally Darling and the Welcome Home universe. And again, those are just the AUs that I know about. There could be many, many more scattered throughout the fandom that I don't know about. And let's just let the record show that I also have my own AU, which I haven't shared publicly at all, and I didn't share it on the list because it doesn't pertain to the character of Wally nearly as much as it pertains to the character of Home. Would this be considered a shameless plug? I don't know. Shameless plug. I refer to it as the Handler AU, or otherwise known as the Ninth Neighbor AU. And if you'd like to know more about that, let me know in the comments, and I'll start sharing some information, because we're still in quarantine at the moment, and I have way too much time on my hands. The moral of the story, there's a lot going on in this fandom, and that may or may not be a good thing. Now you listen to me. You let me simp for Rainbow Factory Wally in peace, okay? Yes, I realize I can be found in the comment section of almost every single audio that's out there. It's literally becoming a game for some of the people that follow me to find me on a Rainbow Factory Wally audio. But let me simp for my man in peace, okay? I'm not hurting anybody. Judging by the context of this comment, I believe you're referring to Rags Patchwork. Rags is just one of many of my Welcome Home OCs, and I wish I had the artistic talent to draw them. Rags Patchwork specifically is my OC for the Rainbow Factory AU to Welcome Home. And as their name suggests, they are a ragdoll. Basically, they represent the more androgynous aspects of my personality. They look neither entirely male nor female, but they do have very long, very messy, dark green hair that looks almost black. Their fabric that makes up their body mostly is gray, and it's just absolutely covered in patches that are varying in color. A little piece of Rags lore that I developed is that the patches that they wear on their body always seem like they're constantly changing. Nobody can entirely agree what patches can be found where. It always seems like they're changing, and there's a reason for that. Rags, whenever they're nervous or anxious, has a very bad habit of picking at their stitches. And whenever they are full-on stressed, out of their mind, they will actually rip their patches off and stitch them back on by themselves. Another quirk of theirs is that whenever they're flustered, or whenever they're just absolutely bored out of their mind, they'll go limp, like a rag doll. That's why I say in the audio where Rainbow Factory Wally is flustering YN to no end, I say my OC would not be able to handle it. They would just fall over and just be like, yeah, no, I'm done, Wally. Overall, they are very observant and understanding of other people, which is why Rags, in my own little fictional universe going on in my head, gets along with Wally so well, is because they can identify Wally's boundaries and know what lines not to cross and when. And overall, they're not really the type to lash out or be snarky, but they will take control of a situation if it's getting out of hand. So if we're having one of those moments where Rainbow Factory Wally is locking himself in his office and pulling all-nighters and not taking care of himself, they'll be the ones to be like, yeah, no, you're going to bed, because otherwise, one of these days, you are going to die. Rags has also staked their claim of being my favorite Welcome Home OC. No, I had to make a video response to your comment, because everyone's gonna get a kick out of this one. I woke up to that. I woke up to that tag in my notifications. So you know when you first wake up from a deep sleep and you are not entirely awake, you're still half asleep. That was the mindset I watched that video in. And when I tell you that that turned into me having a full-on sleepy conversation with my phone, trying to comfort Rainbow Factory Wally, you can't make this shit up. It gets better, because I was actively cuddling something while I was asleep, and I was trying to rub it in order to comfort it. Do you want to know what I was cuddling? My blanket. My goddamn comforter. There are two reasons why I ended up fully waking up and realizing what was happening. One, the video looped. And two, my manager at my workplace called me with a question about the goddamn lottery machine. And believe it or not, this is not the first time that something like this has actually happened. Something like this actually happened back when I was still very much obsessing over Has Been Hotel, because I used to have Alistair voices and Angel Dust as alarms to wake me up for work. And they would alternate, so one alarm would be Alistair's, then the next would be Angel Dust, and I'd go back to Alistair, then I'd go back to Angel Dust, and continue until I finally woke my ass up. And at one point, I was in groggy purgatory between alarms, and when my alarm went off again, it sounded in my head like Alistair and Angel Dust were arguing with each other, and I legitimately rolled over, sat up in bed, and shouted, "Will you two idiots shut the hell up?" Followed by me immediately doubling over in laughter and realizing I was yelling at my goddamn alarms. I'll tell you what, I'm not in the thick of a fandom unless I embarrass myself at least once. I swear. So, remember before I got sick, I was telling you guys how I was strongly considering doing voice work as Rainbow Factory Wally, but I was very hesitant to do so because I was worried it might be cringe. I did it. I did it. I did it. What have I done?